From WLWT, this is Let's Talk Cincy, presented by Western and Southern Financial Group. Put our financial strength behind you.
Hello everyone, I'm Curtis Fuller and welcome to Let's Talk Cincy. Today, a very interesting story about this journey of immigration. And here with me to talk about this, first of all, John Nakata, and then Ronald Houston. And first of all, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
I should point out that about 13, 14 years ago, I did an interview with John and his family to talk about this issue of immigration. So I want to give people some reference point on that, and then we'll talk about this book that you've put out. But let's go back to when we first met about 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah, Curtis, thank you again for this day. I know for sure, to me, you don't even know how appreciative I am for you to make this effort for me to be here. You came home 13 years ago in terms of this immigration. But the first point myself, let me just say this. I never thought that I can be in this situation because before I came here, I wanted to make sure that I have to come here legally, and all my family, they have to come legally. That's what I did.
And we should point out that you were born in Malani.
In Malawi.
Yeah, Malawi.
Yeah, and then I was, anyway, let me just put a little of my background. I was a great soccer player to our standard.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not to American standard or British standard.
That's what I've heard. You're a great soccer player.
I was a great soccer player. Then I was blessed on that, and I've explained that in my book. But then the time when we got here, I wanted to make sure to do everything legally, but everything was a shock because the things that I heard before I came here, I didn't get the whole story.
Let me give some reference point too, is that you have 3 daughters.
Yes.
2 of them were born.
1. Or 2 of them more.
2 were born in
Malawi.
Africa.
Yes.
And 1 born here.
Yes.
And so when you and your wife came here in the early 90s,
yes,
you came here to find a better life for your daughters, right?
Specifically, I came on a F1 visa. That's specified for education. That's why I came to the United States. I wanted just to make sure in Africa we didn't have good education, but my point, I wanted to make sure that I have some kind of education. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why I came. That's it. My visa was specifically for education.
I would imagine as you, and Ron, we'll get to you shortly, I would imagine as you've been following today's drama
yes.
of immigration. Immigration is not a new challenge, but as you've followed this drama of immigration today, what's been your thoughts about that?
Oh, it's a shock. Yeah, it's a shock. In fact, the immigration, it's a big umbrella because it all the time it comes with this from the source. How you got here, why you are here, what was the reason, what's your future plans. So everybody, every family, or every individual, they've got their own story. That's why I say that every immigrant has got a story. So for me, to me, it's much simple in the sense that I knew exactly why I was coming here. I knew exactly 100%, I knew why I was coming here. I wanted to make sure to get education. And the good thing is that in Africa, the time when I was playing soccer, when you are traveling outside the country, all the time, a lot of people, they don't know. But any sports people, when they are going out of the country, the government sends people ahead to make sure that you are not in contact with some other things, maybe about the government whatsoever. All the time, there are people accompanying you, others are already there. So to me, I had that same mentality. And even the time when I was coming, I had a problem to get my visa, but one of the police chief, the whole southern region, He's the one who called me in his office because his son was a supporter in my team. So the time when I was having difficulty with the visa, he went to his dad to say that, Dad, I've got this guy is a friend. So he called me in his office. He was a big general as a police. So I explained to him, he's the one who helped me to get a visa. So with that mentality, that's exactly, I was coming here to make sure that I'm going to the United States, and I was hearing a lot about the United States. I don't want to go and get in trouble there. So I want to make sure everything is clean.
It's a layered story that I want. There's a lot to get to, and Ron, we're going to talk about this book From There to Here in just a moment. But let's take a break, and then we'll come right back. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Curtis Fuller. We're talking about this book. It is called From There to Here. It is the story of John Nakata's journey from Malawian soccer to American dream. And John, thank you for being here. And Ron Houston, who helped you with this book, the editor and publisher. I would imagine when he came to you, Ron, with this story, you said you worked on this for about 8 years?
John came across my name through a working friend of mine, and of his, and he contacted me, and I went over to his home, and he took me into his dining room, and what I saw was a mountain of books, journals, pictures, documentation that you would not believe. And I ran out. I told him, I said, listen, I said, you know, a lot of people want to write books.
Right.
I said, I don't have that kind of time. I said, I'm not going to read all this. I'm not going to be able to digest this. And I left. And this man, I said, if you digest it and come to me and explain why this should be a book, then I'll think about it, because I don't want to give anybody false hope, and I do not want to waste my time. So 8 years later, he contacted me and said, Ron, I want you to come and see what I got about the book. So I went back, and there were no big journals. There was one binder, and it was very well laid out, and it was primarily about the Malawian dignitary that even John explained to me that the Malawian people didn't really understand. I always also knew about President Banda, and I had my own formed opinion, but John started telling me about why he investigated this gentleman's life, and I was particularly interested in why would you want to talk about a dignitary that anybody can do research on. Mm-hmm. I said, that's already been done. Then he told me his reasoning why, and he told me his journey and what he went through. And I would sit back and listen. He was telling me these things, and he was telling me first the troubles and then his mindset. And I said, John, I said, that's your story. I said, you got a story that back in 1990 could have happened today. And I said, that's the story. And he still explained that the reason why he chose to pick Banda's journey as a measuring rule of what he was going through is because the reason why the people in Malawi didn't understand Banda is because Banda came to the United States unknown as a major dignitary, and he learned how American way of life operated. And so that knowledge paired with what he was going through, led him to the basic laboratory research that he did with a journey. And I'd never really spoken to someone who had such an incredible crisis, just trying to do what everybody wants, a good education, a good opportunity, and he thought that he could get everything that he wanted here, and he came here based on a lie. And that's what his book is about.
Yeah, the book is called, again, From There to Here. John, it's a fascinating story. And I want to take another break, and then we will talk about how this is, as Ron said, still impacting your family in many ways. People might think that, okay, that was 30-some years ago when you first came to the States, but it's still impacting you even to this day. So let's take a break. Back in a moment. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Curtis Fuller. You know, you hear a lot about the issue of immigration, and John Nakata has dealt with this firsthand. So you had you have two daughters who were not born in this country.
Yes.
One daughter who's an American citizen.
American citizen.
The issue that brought me to you initially was the issue of the DREAM Act and how this was impacting your two older daughters. One graduated from UC. I remember being there.
All of them.
All of them graduated from UC.
They went to Walnut Hills High School. All of them, they graduated from UC.
Yeah, how about that?
Yeah.
So you have two daughters who, they are fine because your middle daughter got married.
Yes.
You know, she's a mom, and then you do still have one daughter who's unfortunately still trapped in this limbo. Talk a little bit about that and how she's being impacted today.
As I told you, this has really impacted her in terms of the status she's in. You find that all of us, my wife, now she's a citizen. For me, I have my green card, and then the other one is married, and the other one is now, she just have a legal status just for work,
Right.
but she can't go outside the country. So that impacts me each and every second, because as a father, I can't go further if one of my child is stuck in there. That's why I told my family, I said that I'm not going to do anything until my other daughter gets her paper that she has to have freedom. But rather than that, I'm going to speak as I can speak, even if it reaches, if it were that there's that kind of way that I have to trade to give my green card my daughter, and then I get her status, I would have said, please, I can do that right now, because she has much more future than myself. So.
And when you see these raids and things of that, does that concern you that she might get caught up in something like that?
100%. 100%. Now it's worse because they are not, as long as you have got an illegal document, a legal something, they are not asking other questions. No, that's it, you're gone. So that's the danger that we are facing in, and I have to assure you, let me be open here. We are afraid because maybe I'm trying to expose all this to that, and it caused a little friction, but I said that I can't lose this opportunity. If there's a crisis like this, there must be somebody to speak before, on behalf of people that they can talk. And I'm glad because those people I showed you, I told you, those are the people that they had the courage. Something was happening, so they had to stand up to say that, let me speak. So with what is happening right now, we are worried, because if she can have something like an accident, they come and they see that but she has got a legal paper, but then you don't know how they are pushing them much far. That's why we are very afraid, as you have just asked me.
Yeah, I think so many of us, we see these stories, and if you're not directly connected in some way, you don't really feel the pain and the anxiety and the fear.
Yeah, the fear
That exists every single day. Yeah. And I mean, you talk about that in the book. It's interesting because, and I don't want to lose sight of, you being this great soccer player. And did you have dreams of that's what you were going to do, to be a soccer player for, as a career?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. Otherwise, I could have been in the United States. Mm-hmm. I couldn't have been in the United States. And then, for your information too, the time when I was in Africa, my wife never supported much for me to play soccer because all my kids were born while I was outside the country. Right. And then, to my wife's side, it's a family that they were very ambitious when it comes to education, because all her family, they have degrees, they have traveled outside the country and whatsoever. And all my brother in marriages, they had degrees and then all that. And even, I have to say here, I was the last one in the whole brother in marriage that I had the least education. So I was feeling ashamed and embarrassed for that. But I never tell anybody. But to me, once when we were together, I know for sure they knew I was famous, the whole Malawi. But at the same time, when it comes to education, I was the least. I was the least that I had. So to me, it really impacted me a lot because my ambition, my parents wanted me to go as far as I can, but then sports was pushing me back, not to concentrate much in education.
Yeah. All right, we'll take our final break and then back in a moment. The book is called From There to Here. It is by John Nakata. It is his journey from Africa to what he said would be the American dream. I'm reading in the introduction, which is powerful. He said, I'm revealing my daylight decisions, but I never realized good and right could be so painful. Wow. That's how you start this book. John Nakata and Ron Houston, who assisted him with this book. Ron, as you hear him even tell it today, it's an amazing journey. Huh?
Yeah, and it stings. It stings because we're all human, and writing is about the reflection of the human experience, and this stings just like the Holocaust, religious persecution. Yeah. These things are not what humans should expect or receive, but it's part of this human condition that we're under. So this is a very emotional book for John, and anybody who reads it, there is emotion attached to this.
You found joy in family, though.
100%, yes. Yeah. 100%. I love my family, and there's nothing much I love them to death. Yeah, I love them to death.
How often have you gotten back to Malawi?
I think I've gone, since we came to the United States, I think I've gone 3 times.
Beautiful country.
It's let me say this. This is why he's talking about Banda. He took the country, and the Bible was a curriculum, one of the curriculum in the whole high school. It was like English, mathematics, and then Bible knowledge was like a curriculum. That's how we grew up. So the time when he was running the country, to me, it's exactly that. That's what triggered me to make sure to search what kind of a person took the country and then introduced the Bible in all schools. I got it. I found it. At Wilberforce. The time when he just got here, he went to high school there. On his application form, it was a little paper. The time when I got it, I said, oh, he wanted to be a missionary. That's when it triggered me to now focus how he ran the country and the little things he was doing. If he finds a man without a button shirt over here, the police could stop you, say, what are you trying to do? If he finds a lady, he hasn't dressed modesty, will stop, go back and dress properly. So he was just tough. So a lot of people were just saying that he's a dictator, he's this. Right. To me, that's what triggered me to search. And another thing is exactly that. I was in Michigan. The reason why I'm found in Cincinnati, the first 2 months, the thing that brought me trauma, that's when I made a decision that I'm not going to go in any business-related studies. I'm going to a Bible school. The first encounter, those 2 months, I called my wife. I said, about it was within 6 months. I called my wife that I'm about to come back home. They were thinking that I'm crazy.
Let me, where can people find the book? They can get it online?
On Amazon, yeah.
Yeah, on Amazon. Okay.
Yeah, and they can Google it. It's on Amazon. It's on every platform, Kindle, hardback and paperback.
Yeah. Well, good luck to you. It's good seeing you again.
Thank you.
It's good seeing you too.
Right.
We've known each other over 20 years.
Yes. Yeah.
Hey, well, that does it for the program today. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Curtis Fuller. I'll see you next time for another edition of Let's Talk Cincy. Until then, have a good day and a better day tomorrow.